Hello and welcome to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley's program for this week. My name is Mitty Chang. I am president of this Rotary Club. Every week we bring to you a new program on education, technology, innovation, and humanitarian service. Before I introduce our guest speakers for this week, I'd like to introduce one of our members on the call. Shags, go ahead and wave hi to everyone. Shags is currently our membership chair and on our board of directors. He lives in the San Francisco Bay Area and is a money coach. And has also an awesome Rotarian with perfect attendance for many decades, many decades. So Shags is amazing. And I'd also like to introduce really briefly our guest speakers for this program. Marilyn, go ahead and wave hi everyone. And Jim, go wave hi everyone as well. Perfect.
Hello, everyone.
So Jim and Marilyn are our guest speakers for this program. This program is about microfinancing through the Rotarian Action Group. So what we're going to be talking about, Jim and Marilyn will be kind of talking more about microfinancing, but really briefly, Jim has been a Rotarian since 2005. He is currently district governor and he's based in Toronto, Canada. He's a past chair of the Microfinancing Rotary Action Group. And Marilyn is currently on the board of directors of the Rotarian Action Group for Microfinance and Community Development, and is currently serving as Developed World Microfinance Director. And she's been a Rotarian since 1993. Jim, Marilyn, please take it away, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Mitty.
Thank you, President Mitty and fellow Rotarians. So today I'd like to tell you a little of microfinance, the what and why, and how Rotarians can get involved. And then a little about the project in the developing world that I'm involved with, called the Honduras Economic and Community Development Program, which will lead us into microfinance in the developed world that Marilyn will talk about. So to start, what is microfinance? Well, microfinance is the umbrella providing financial services to low-income consumers and the self-employed who traditionally lack access to banking services. This includes loans, savings, insurance, and training. Similar services to what you're offered in any commercial bank, except the loans are smaller with quicker repayments, possible terms of anywhere from 3 to 12 months, with weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly repayments. Client savings accounts with lower balances than you or me. Insurance that may include creditor life, health insurance, and perhaps even crop insurance. And training on running businesses is also provided to clients, which covers various financial tools. So these people can be individuals, small groups of 5 to 6 people, or perhaps even a larger community group. And the largest group that I saw were 27 women. And this was a visit I had to Bangladesh back in, I think, 2012. So those who promote microfinance believe that such access to credit and credit-related services will help poor people move out of poverty, and that's what it's all about. So some areas where microfinance is relevant are Africa, Asia, India, and Latin America. And now we're seeing microfinance being used in developed countries such as North America. While the microfinance industry is fairly recent, development tools such as informal savings and credit groups have always existed. For example, in the 1500s, the first pawn shop was created by the Catholic Church as an alternative to moneylenders. But one of the people generally known for starting microcredit in the 1970s is Muhammad Yunus, a Bangladeshi economist, professor, and founder of the Green Bank, an institution that today still provides microcredit in a number of countries around the world. So Dr. Yunus and the Green Bank believed that credit should be a human right. In 2006, Dr. Yunus and the Green Bank received the Nobel Peace Prize, recognizing their efforts to create economic and social development. So why microfinance? You heard of what it is. Well, why? Well, traditionally, banks have not provided financial services such as loans to clients with little or no cash income. One reason is the cost incurred to manage a client account, regardless of how small the sums of money involved. There's a break-even point in providing loans below which banks lose money, and small loans for poor people fall below that break-even point. In addition, most poor people have few assets that can be secured by a bank as collateral. So where do you think their money comes from? When poor people borrow, they often rely on relatives or a local moneylender, whose interest rates can be very high. Therefore, microfinance organizations can function and provide services to the poor. So how can Rotarians get involved in microfinance? As you may know, Rotary International has Rotarian Action Groups operating under their umbrella to work with Rotary clubs and districts worldwide, covering their area of expertise. Today, I think there's about 26 RAGs within Rotary. And one is the Rotarian Action Group for Microfinancing and Community Development, or to make it a little short, RAGAM. So today, RAGAM is a global action group with 25 directors worldwide. So we are global. Marilyn is the current director of RAGAM, and I'm a past president of RAGAM. And I served in that role during 2013-14. So RAGAM's mission is to broaden and deepen Rotarians' understanding of microfinance and enable clubs and districts worldwide to participate in effective microfinance projects. So we work with leaders in Rotary and global microfinance institutions to build stronger partnerships to support economic and community development projects. And as with other Rotarian action groups, RAGAM operates in accordance with Rotary International policy. So this brings us to the Honduras Economic and Community Development Program that I mentioned earlier. I've been involved with this program through RAGAM going on to 5 years now. So why did we pick Honduras? Well, they're the third poorest country in the Western Hemisphere after Haiti and Nicaragua. They have a population of about 8 million people. And listen to this, approximately 65% of the population live below the poverty line, with 16% of them in extreme poverty. So they're unable to meet their basic needs due to the lack of formal employment. To date, our program has raised over $1 million. The money has been used in several initiatives, including funding the expansion of several branches of our partner, which is a local microfinance institution, to provide additional loan capital and increase the number of clients that can be served. As well, we provide financial literacy training. 2 years ago, we brought piped-in water to 2 villages where the women previously had to walk over 3 miles each trip to carry water back to the village from a local stream. And we did this because it was something that was sustainable, and it allowed the women to get into some businesses of their own instead of carrying water all day. And as well, we automated our partners' management information system so they could look after their clients more efficiently. But to give you a better idea of the program, the average loan is about $300 and is paid back over a 6 to 9 month period. An average client will go through 3 borrowing cycles to establish their business, approximately. And over 75% of the clients are women. And they use their income to first provide nutrition for their children, then education for their children, and last but not least, any unnecessary medical expenses. And as their businesses grow, they can also involve the community by hiring people. In effect, they're moving their families out of poverty. In the oldest of the 2 branches that we funded, this one was 3 years ago, the direct beneficiaries are over 12,000 new clients today. And indirectly, we have probably benefited somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 people. And that's just one branch of the local microfinance institution. So I think it's a pretty good story, but let's move over to Marilyn, and she can talk about microfinance in the developed world.
Great, thank you, Jim. That was so informative. Okay, I've been involved in humanitarian aid projects for the last 20 years within Rotary, but I've been involved in community economic development for the last 10 years. And in those 10 years, I've worked in Bangladesh, Indonesia, Romania, Guatemala, Nicaragua, New York City, and Detroit, Michigan. And in those places, we've learned all kinds of different things, and we've put together different components from different projects to help make a project beneficial and successful, and most importantly, sustainable within the community. So I'm going to talk about a few things today. I'm going to talk about why is microfinance growing in popularity, what are the 4 pillars of microfinance, and components to consider if you're wanting to develop a microfinance project within your community. So let's start with why is microfinance growing? It's grown in popularity crazy. It's just gone, in some of the projects are better than other projects, and we have to keep that in mind because all is not beautiful in the microfinance world. You can get loan sharks involved and people that are really disreputable, and it can really cause a lot of harm. So it's important when you think about microfinance projects that you think about well-established projects that have high success rates and that people are repaying the loans with the money that they've gotten from their microloans, from their businesses. We don't want them to borrow from another person or another organization in order to pay off the organization that you're working with. We want that profit to come from their business, and that's what they're paying it back with. So one of the reasons why it's become so popular are twofold. One of the reasons is because there's a lot of sharks out there that have really polluted the system. But the other reason is there's a lot of success stories too, and that's the good news. So one of the reasons why microfinance is growing in popularity is the promise of reaching poor people. It's got the ability to reach poor people and then also have a sustainable project behind it, so that it's not a matter of building dependency and creating dependent relationships with people. It's a matter of people actually being able to build on something that you helped provide an opportunity for. And we've all heard the saying about give a man a fish. It's that kind of a thing. So it's not, in the early days, I got involved in projects that I had to keep going back to and going back to. And if I wasn't there, the project wasn't, or someone provide the money for the projects, it wasn't going to continue on. So microfinances and community economic development have turned out to be self-sustaining projects. And that's one of the reasons why it's been so exciting and popular, is because it really has the ability to reach the poor. It also, along with it, as I mentioned, brings financial sustainability and stability within people's lives. So if they know that they have an income coming in on a regular basis, then that brings stability to them. If they know at that point that they can continue to have income so that they can send their children to school, that matters. I don't have time to go into it today, but there was a program I was involved with where I was providing all the money for the children to go to school. The parents worried every year and the children worried every year if I was going to come back or not. I wasn't providing, a lot of Rotarians were providing it. I just brought the money, I was the carrier. But that wasn't sustainability, and it did not promote stability in their financial world. Microloans also have the ability to build on existing institutions. So if there's an institution, a bank, a credit union, whatever there is in that community, they can build on that. Most poor people have never had access to that institution, but we can build on the systems of those institutions, and we all understand that in developed and underdeveloped countries. So also, microfinance has the ability to strengthen and build on an existing financial institution. So if we bring in borrowers that are non-traditional borrowers, meaning they don't have any collateral and they don't have any credit history, if we bring those borrowers to the table and they get a couple good loan cycles behind them, they're becoming more traditional borrowers because they've paid back the loan and they've shown their strengths and their dependability. That adds to the population of the financial institution that's already in existence. So we take non-traditional borrowers and help them become traditional borrowers and help them with banking relationships, so that helps build on existing financial institutions that are already in the community. There's also a growing number of success stories. We don't have the kind of success stories when countries send a lot of money to another country and that money is supposed to somehow have a trickle-down effect to somehow help poor people in their lives. That money is not reaching the poor people. But we have got incredible success stories around the world of people that took a loan as small as $250 and then turn it into a multi-cycle loan, and then they're able to then become financially sustainable themselves. So there's a growing number of success stories out there with microfinance, and we build on those stories all the time. Of course, there's some people that you can't get success out of them, but when you think about it, we've lent people as much as $250 to people that have never had any credit at all, don't understand business at all, and have a 98% return rate of them paying back their loans. That's pretty amazing. And that has a perspective to it that isn't just about paying back a loan. It also builds social capital within their communities. It empowers them, it builds self-esteem, and it gives them some real hope to the future. So those stories are really important, powerful stories. We also, another reason why it's been so popular is because it gives the ability to come up with new financial products, so that if you've got a loan group or individuals that are borrowing the money from that, they then can come up with a product that may be better and may address the grassroots efforts within an existing organization, and they can use our tools to make that happen that are already there. But what are the 4 pillars of microfinance? The 4 pillars of microfinance are the loan capital, the education. All of our projects have education along with them. Along with that, we've got mentoring and we've got networking. Mentoring is an amazing thing that happens within a Rotary Club, and it has really, really brought some Rotary Clubs to life, so that when someone starts in a mentoring program, they now have access to a Rotarian. Most of our Rotarians, something like 80% of the Rotarians in the world, are entrepreneurs. Think about that. They're entrepreneurs, they're right there in that community, and they can help the people within that community. So the mentoring is an amazing thing that brings real life to a club and also helps anybody that's interested in a loan thing. When you've got a non-traditional borrower, they don't have access to us. They can't come and sit down at a table like we do and do that kind of networking and understand that we can build on those situations. Think about it. In the early days of Rotary, we had all the classification systems. You could talk to anybody in your club, whether it be a carpenter, a maintenance person, a CEO of the bank, whatever it is, you had that networking opportunity. These people don't have that opportunity at all, but we're there. And what speaks to our heart as Rotarians more than entrepreneurship? So we're the experts that help provide mentoring and networking. We believe that all educational all loans are dependent on educational programs. In the beginning days, we were providing loans to people that didn't know how to count. Some of the women in the villages learned how to count by using coffee beans. Then they had to learn how much it takes to develop a product, how much it costs to produce that product, what the return on that's going to be. Now these people that had to learn how to count on coffee beans can actually tell you what their ROI is, their return on the investment. They know how much money they have to put into a product, let's say a tortilla maker, how much money it takes to make a tortilla, how much money they have to sell that tortilla for in order to develop a profit for themselves, how much they have to save for the child's education, and how much they have to put aside to then build more supplies for that business. So that education is a critical role. And I've seen a lot of microfinance projects here and abroad, and they are almost always dependent on that education, whether it's in the developed world or not. So if you're considering, oh no, I got to tell you about domestic microfinance because that's what I'm going to do. So I was in, let me check the time here. I was in, I don't know where, Guatemala or something, and came home. I'm a Michigander, came home and started to see all these headlines about Detroit, Michigan, and how the businesses are leaving Detroit, Michigan, the people are leaving Detroit, Michigan, the schools are leaving, the communities are falling apart, the housing is falling apart. And I started to realize none of these jobs are coming back, and it's very similar to the developing countries I've been working in. And so I started to think, what if we did microloans in developed countries? Why couldn't Detroit have a microloan program? Why couldn't we help entrepreneurs in Detroit? So a program began called Launch Detroit. And the Rotary Club of Detroit started to help people within their community with microloans. We took the exact model that we used in Guatemala and applied it to Detroit, the exact thing. If we had more time, I'd talk to you about the differences. But they still had loan capital, they still had education programs, they had a Rotary mentor, and they had networking. We found the same success rate within a developed world as we found in an undeveloped world. Prior to that, though, I'd gone to New York City and looked at projects that Grameen Bank had been involved in, the founder being Muhammad Yunus, and saw the success that they had using that same kind of project. And so when I did that, I got really excited about bringing that whole system home and doing it in developed countries, and how many Rotary clubs live in areas that would benefit from a microloan program. So that's when we also did Launch Detroit. We have a program in Atlanta. We have a program in North Carolina, in the south side of Chicago, and in Greenville, South Carolina. And so it became known, it became obvious that you can do this anywhere, and most areas have a deprived population where they really would benefit from economic development. And so we brought microfinance to them, and they're having amazing results. So if you want to think about this, I want to talk for just a minute about the components to consider before you'd start to develop a microfinance project in your community. First thing you have to do is you have to talk to the community and do a community assessment and make sure that it's needed and wanted, and that people see that providing this opportunity is more of a solution to the problem than any kind of giveaway project. So talk to the community, do a community assessment, try to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to lift poor people out of poverty so that they then can be enabled to make their own decisions and build in their social networking? Figure out what your mission is. That might not be your mission. I think that's a really good mission, but maybe you wouldn't. And the points of consideration is that you have to think about the infrastructure of your loan. What do you want it to look like? Do you want them to pay back the money or not pay back the money? If you don't pay back the money, it's not a loan. And if you don't have that money back with interest, you're not going to be able to sustain yourself. So it's really important to look at that infrastructure, figure out what your repayment rate will look like, how often they have to pay, who they're going to pay, what the interest rate is. Develop networks within that loan community and see if they will then work together, and that helps with the networking. You also have to figure out an education program, because even in a developed world, you have to educate people and you have to help them just because even if they went to college, it doesn't mean they understand how to run a business. And so if you think about that fact that how many businesses fail in this country every year, so maybe that has to do with education and understanding how to run a business. Again, we have Rotarians there that are going to help with that, because they're business people, because we know what we're talking about, and we make great mentors. Where are you going to get the loan capital? We've got a really successful program in California in the loan capital. Some of it was developed within the community, and some of it was through the Rotary Foundation. So the Rotary Foundation, there in California, they have a microfinance project that got a $250,000 loan, or grant, from the Rotary Foundation. So it's important to know that they're there to help. But here's what I have to say about that. It's really, really important that you have some skin in the game from your own community. So you can go around to your own community, talk to banks, talk to other people that are interested in investing in social products or social programs, and get some loan capital. And it doesn't take a lot of loan capital. Launch Detroit started out with $30,000, but Atlanta started out with $5,000. They gave out 5 $1,000 loans. So it doesn't take a lot of money, and most of us can go to our communities and find out about that. Talk to your Rotarians about being mentors. Not just anybody can be a mentor. It's going to be important to be somebody that can be inspiring, someone that can hang with you during tough times, that's not afraid to talk about money, that's not afraid to say, look, you've got a payment due. How are you going to make that happen? And if you can't make that happen, why not? And what are you going to do about it in the future? So I think what's really important is I would love for every district to think about having a microfinance project within their district. If everybody did that, if like there was magic, and everybody, that's 500 districts, everybody did that, Jim wouldn't be going to Honduras to take a look at a microloan program, because Honduras Rotarians would be doing that. Guatemalan Rotarians would be doing that. Everyone would be doing it within their own communities, and that would be a grassroots effort that then has everybody's skin in the game and everybody's interest, and that is how sustainability is built.
Exactly.
Okay? That's what I have to say.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Marilyn and Jim. That was wonderful. So I did have a few questions for the two of you. I was wondering if you could maybe explain to our audience members who are mostly Rotary members, but we do have some guests who join us. So if you could explain to them, how a Rotarian Action Group is formed, and specifically what does it also take to be part of the Rotarian Action Group as well?
I'll give it to Jim. He's really good at this.
Well, I guess let me talk about Ragan. Ragan's been around in the Rotary world now for 10 years. So we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. And really, how to start an action group. It's a matter of putting together some forms. Well, obviously, to start with a couple of members, a board, but it has to be approved by Rotary International. If you go into the RI website, it tells you how to start an action group.
But give them some examples of other action groups besides microfinance.
Well, that's well, I guess I'll start with an easy one. As I said, there are about 26 RAGs now, action groups within Rotary. They're oversaw by a small committee called the Rotarian Action Group's committee chairs. And the chair of that is a person that you've probably met in your travels as Rotarians, Annalie Hussey. Annalie Hussey is part of the action group for polio survivors. There's one for maternal health. I think probably one of the biggest ones that is known is WashRag, Water and Sanitation Action Group. There are a number there.
And we're one of them, yeah.
I'm sorry?
And we're just one of them.
Yes, we're just one of 26. But they're all out there. And what I'm trying to promote through the RAGs is that we make a better effort. We'd be more efficient if we start working together as a team. It's just not one RAG by itself, but we need linkages to other RAGs as well to make something. If we wanted to build sustainable economic and community development, we have to work together.
Yeah.
And it's easy to join a RAG. All the RAGs are in the RI website. They all have their email addresses. It's just a matter of going on to each site. To become a member, you have to be an active Rotarian. That's it.
That's awesome. And so
and
we'll
of course,
have.
We are looking for members. Every RAG is looking for members.
Always.
Awesome. So we'll have a link to both your RAG website, but also to a directory for Rotarian Action Groups below this video for those of our viewers who are interested in checking out what other RAGs exist out there. I was wondering.
I can provide you with that later.
Oh, perfect. And I was wondering if the two of you could actually just maybe also tell us a little bit about how the two of you got involved in Ragan.
Oh.
I'll let Marilyn go first.
Okay. Ragan, how old is Ragan, Jim?
10 years.
Okay. So 10 years ago, there was a big memo that went out to a lot of people that were involved in humanitarian aid projects, and I was one of those people. And they said they were interested in developing this RAG. And I want to just say, like, what I think about RAGs. I think of RAGs, when you join a RAG, it's like, when you're in Rotary, it's like undergrad, right? Like when you're learning, like in a liberal arts project, you've got lots and lots of choices and you can decide where you want to be. When you join a RAG, it's like going to graduate school because you get really intensely focused in one area. I had been intensely focused in economic development before the RAG-M, the microfinance area in the economic development. So there were these minds around the world that had decided that they wanted to do this in microfinance. And so they were just doing an interest poll at the very beginning of the whole thing. And I decided that I wanted to be part of that I wanted to be a member of that because I wanted to have all the latest and greatest information studies. We've got a great website that talks about all the latest research and all the RAGs have got good things like that. But that's how I got involved. It just started out with an email from some interested parties in developing a RAG, and I was real interested in being part of it. Jim?
I guess from my side, I was invited, I heard about a project fair that was happening in Central America, and this was in January 2010. And it's called Uniendo America. And the first day of the project fair was more dedicated to microfinance. And one of my past careers was an international banker, so I knew a little bit about banking, right from low-end retail up to all the way up to the corporate side. But microfinance, I don't know, it just struck a note to me. And so I started to get involved with it and join RAG-M. But I guess what really solidified it for me was a visit I did to Bangladesh. I've been there a couple of times, but my first visit. And I mentioned a large group of women, I think 27 women. Well, one of them there, after the meeting, basically kind of grabbed me by the arm, and she wanted me to see what she had, as being part of microfinance. And she, through a translator, I got her story. A number of years before, wasn't that long, maybe 7 or 8 years before, she was a beggar. She lived on the streets, foraging for food daily to survive. That's how she survived. She had nothing. And when I met her, she had a small house, 2-room house, so she could look after her daughter, which was fantastic. And then she had a dairy cow. That was a large asset for her. You remember her?
Yes, I do.
Marilyn was part of the visit. And I mean, this woman was just beaming because she could show us what she had because of microfinance. But what really hit me and stays with me, and I use this story every once in a while in presentations, she said to me, and I'll use her words, she says, "What I have today is only because of one person. That person had little faith in me."
Yeah.
And that's, and that's what it took. There was a faith to provide her with a loan that she could start back about 8 years before.
Yeah, it just takes one person to believe
Exactly.
in it. The pride of the borrowers, the pride of them and their businesses will just sell anybody. When they can show you what they've done on their own, all we provided for them was an opportunity to borrow money and pay money back again. And then they own it. It's their pride that just keeps you coming back all the time.
See, because it is not charity. It's not a handout. It's a hand up.
Right.
And so they have some of their own skin in the game because they have to work in this little business to pay that loan back. And when they do it, I mean, the gratitude that they have and the pride that they have, pride of ownership, it's fantastic.
That's incredible.
What keeps me in Rotary, keeps me involved in microfinance.
That's wonderful. And so I want to touch a little bit upon what you just said there, but also about, you mentioned really briefly earlier also about membership for RAG. From my understanding, so Rotarian Action Groups are really experts or folks who are really passionate about a specific field, right? It could be microfinance. It could be something like water and sanitation.
Yes.
So specifically with microfinancing and your RAG, so RAG-M, I know that from the RAG-M website, it's $25 per year, or every 5 years, it's $100 for membership. I'm wondering, for our viewers out there who maybe work in the, somewhere in the microfinance sphere, either as a volunteer or professionally, or they're just really passionate about getting involved with microfinancing. Could you tell them a little bit more about, what does it RAG-M member do? What are some of the benefits, but what does the day-to-day look like if they want to become more involved with your RAG?
Go, Jim.
Well, I guess there is, we do have an email address where we get a lot of mail, and a lot of it is queries like, and Marilyn just talked about, how do I want to do a microfinance project in my club. How do I do one? How do I start? And Marilyn talked about some things that you have to have in place. Or they say, we have money and we want to donate to a microfinance project. Do you have any available? Like, where can I go? So we can go not only in the developed world, we can also go to the developing world to see what projects are on the go. I think it's very important that we have what we call regional outreach directors. So they're in various countries around the world. We're not all in North America. In fact, what we try to do is make sure we have members all over the world. So our directors today stand anywhere from this side of the world, North America, all the way to Australia and in between. So we have so somebody has a problem or has an issue or wants some information on a specific country or a specific region, we probably have one of our directors in that region that we can refer them to. And so they're providing factual information. It's not me sitting at a computer in Toronto trying to talk about Tanzania when I've never been in Tanzania. We have local people on the ground that can provide information to clubs and districts. I mean, that's just some of the benefits. As well, if people want to volunteer, they want to get involved in hands-on. We have a number of projects where we do visits, site visits on an annual basis, so we can get them involved with that as well. It's more, what I'm looking at is, it's more than just writing a check and donating. If you want to get it, if you want to hit the ground and actually see how the money works, that can be done as well. I think that's the most fascinating part of it.
Terrific, terrific, wonderful. Shags, did you have a comment that you want to mention before we close out? We're running a little bit.
No, I've known about RAGs for a long time, and it's great to have a presentation on it to hear some people's experiences. It's a wonderful program, and I commend you for the work that you put into it.
Thank you very much.
I like your Rotary pin showing. Mine is here.
There's mine.
Wasn't it? Also, it's a Ryla t-shirt.
Oh, good job. Very good.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, that is all the time we have for questions. I am going to shortly turn it over to Marilyn and Jim for the last words, but I want to thank all of our members and our viewers for watching this week's program. There will be a link to the Ragan website below this video, as well as a link to the Rotarian Action Group's directory, and you can read up a little bit more about that on the Rotary.org website on the links below. And if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure that you leave a comment at the bottom of the meeting. Feel free to ask maybe Marilyn and Jim a question, and we'll reach out to them to see if they can give you an answer. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Jim, Marilyn, last words.
Go ahead, Marilyn.
I just want to end with my favorite Margaret Mead quote. That is, never underestimate the power of a few concerned, committed citizens to change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Go, Jim.
Very good. Well, I wish I had something like that, but I don't. All I'm going to say is I think microfinance is a very powerful tool to help people move out of poverty. But we also need linkages into other things like maternal health, like literacy, like water and sanitation. So I'm asking if for all of those out there that are listening or will be listening, if you're going to visit the Rotary International Convention in Atlanta in June, come and visit our booth. We'll be in the House of Friendship under the Action Group for Microfinancing and Community Development as well. On Tuesday, June the 13th, in room 8407, and I'll provide you with the details on this. We're going to, from 4:30 to 6 p.m., we're going to have a presentation on microfinance, more on the developed world, so you can hear even more about it, as well with the contact information that you're going to see. You're going to see my email address, my private email address. If you have any questions on microfinance or you want to get involved, write to me. I will respond to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you again, Jim and Marilyn. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Take care.